Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Grace Whiting, and I am the President and CEO of the National Alliance for Caregiving in Washington, D.C., in the United States of America. And I am just beyond thrilled to spend this afternoon with you to talk about a subject that's near and dear to my heart: friend and family caregivers. Today kicks off a 5-day interactive online summit called the World Carers Conversation, in which we'll be looking at the state of caregiving around the world in the era of COVID-19. Today, we're going to start with a musical reception, and we invite you to listen in as you go about your day and to take in some of the things that make us most connected, especially during this difficult time of the global pandemic. I'm going to talk a little bit about this week's events and overview of the various pieces of this week. And I'm also going to encourage you to ask questions and participate online. You can do that using the hashtag #WorldCarers. And you can also insert questions into the chat box here on the Zoom platform. If you're joining us live from Facebook, we invite you to submit comments and questions below the Facebook page so that you can interact with us in real time as we're having these discussions. And by way of housekeeping, we'll be recording the highlights of each of these days' sessions. So if you're not able to attend live, we still welcome your feedback, your insights, and your lived experiences as we collectively look at how we can address the needs of caregivers around the world. This week, we'll start with a musical reception this afternoon. Tomorrow, we'll transition to a summit on caregiving in the Americas, featuring speakers from across North America, a caregiving perspective, and a fireside chat from 2 global advocates. We'll then, on Tuesday, move into a discussion on caregiving in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, followed by a Wednesday program on caregiving in Asia and the South Pacific. This week, you will hear from speakers from all over the world, including nations such as Canada, Mexico, Brazil. You'll hear from folks in Europe, including France and the United Kingdom and Ireland, as well as from folks in Israel, in Africa, in Australia and New Zealand, and countries as big as China, as well as countries such as Taiwan, South Korea, and Hong Kong, who have really tackled the COVID-19 pandemic within their borders. We're hoping that at the end of this week, we'll be able to take away those common themes that make us most likely to weather this terrible pandemic and to bring us hope for the future. Then on Friday, we'll have a global town hall where we'll be working together to identify solutions that can make it easier for friend and family caregivers who are taking care of someone because of a healthcare need or a functional disability. Now, before we move to the speakers, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll, and I encourage you to take a minute, if you're following us on Zoom, to share what part of the world you're dialing in from. And we also encourage you to share how COVID-19 is impacting families in your country or impacting your individual family. So I'll leave that up for just a second and give you a chance to respond. If you're following us on Facebook, I'd also encourage you to leave comments about what part of the world you're joining us from and how COVID-19 has impacted you and changed what's happening in your life. And I want to thank those of you who are voting. It seems today we've got a number of different challenges that people are facing related to COVID-19. Stress and anxiety among family members, financial challenges, changes to the way that we work and we learn, as well as some positive things, such as having the chance to spend more time with family members. So I'll leave that up for a second, and I want to tell you a little bit about today's speakers because I'm just beyond tickled to be able to introduce these 2 wonderful people to you. So if we'll go to the next slide. So the first speaker today is Jasmine Greenemeyer, and I have had the pleasure of knowing Jasmine through the work that she does with the Embracing Carers Initiative. This program this week is actually made possible through the Embracing Carers Initiative, and we're very honored to have Jasmine as a key strategic partner in the development of this program. If you haven't met Jasmine before, not only is she fabulous, but she is a fierce advocate for people, women, in particular and their families. She's currently the Vice President and Head of Global Strategic Partnerships at EMD Serrano. And if you're outside of the United States, EMD Serrano is known more likely to you as Merck KJA, Darmstadt, Germany. Now, at EMD Serrano, Jasmine not only heads up the Embracing Cares initiative, she also leads the Healthy Women, Healthy Economies initiative. She started actually in 2016 at the same company as the Senior Director of Patient Advocacy and Strategic Partnerships, working in oncology and fertility. Her experience spans work, including driving national and community public health interventions, advocating for health equity, and working to increase early detection and treatment of cancer. She's worked very closely with advocates for women and caregivers, and to help those advocates unleash their full economic potential. Before she joined EMD Serrano, Jasmine worked at the Colorectal Cancer Alliance for 8 years. She's also worked in the United States with government agencies such as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the US Department of Education, and the National Institutes of Health. Her background includes a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Michigan State University and a Master of Public Health from the University of Michigan. In addition, she completed the Performance Management program at Harvard Business School, and she lives in Virginia and is the proud mother of a precocious 8-year-old. I'm also beyond thrilled to introduce to you Cameron James. Cameron James and I had the chance to meet a couple of years ago at a conference hosted by Global Genes, which is a global advocacy organization that works with people and families who are managing rare diseases. And Cameron is a singer and songwriter from Nashville, Tennessee. Her songs have been used in international commercials, and they've been in hit television shows like Marvel Comics Stargirl, AB's Quantico, shows on MTV, Bravo, and NBC. And she also co-wrote American Idol alum Danny Gokey's hit single, The Comeback, which earned her a BMI award for being one of the biggest songs on Christian radio. Cameron is also a wife and a mother to 3 beautiful children, one of who is a new arrival just in the last couple of weeks. But she's here today not only to share her background as a musician, as a mom, as a wife, but also her story about her daughter, 9-year-old Elise, who was diagnosed with an ultra rare kidney blood disease called atypical hemolytic uremic syndrome. And for every million people, there are an estimated 2 people that have this disease. Then just a few years after Elise was diagnosed with this rare condition, her husband had an onset of the same condition. And until recently, Cameron's family was the only known family in North America with both a parent and a child that had the same disease. You could say that they're the ultra rare of the ultra rare, but they're both now have made a complete comeback. They do their infusions of life-changing medicine together. And it's informed the way that Cameron thinks about not just caregiving, but the music and the work that she does day to day. She's been a huge advocate in the rare disease community. She's been to Washington, D.C. on multiple occasions to lobby for legislation that could protect the rare disease patient's ability to receive charitable assistance. She has shared her story and her music with a myriad of nonprofits and charities to help inspire and encourage others. And given the year that so many of us had, I have to say I'm especially thankful to have Cameron here to kick off this week's discussion, because she really truly loves inspiring others with a message of hope and sharing her transformation from fear to faith, which is a story that I think so many of us could use at this time. So I will share back some of the results of the poll, just so you can get a peek today of what we're seeing. And then I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Jasmine to get us started with our coffee talk.
Thank you so much, Grace, and the National Alliance for Caregiving for hosting this. But Cameron, we are so delighted that you could join us today to kick off this World Cares Conference. And we, as Grace alluded to, we know that caregiving, particularly during COVID, is very personal to you as well. Would you mind sharing your story with us of, how you're a mother of 3 beautiful children, and also, as Grace alluded to, taking care of 2 family members with this ultra rare disease?
Yes. I think nobody plans, when they're thinking about their life, that rare disease or caregiving will ever be a part of it. And I have to say that I look back over the journey of my family, how my daughter's onset ended up being the one that awakened something in me, a purpose, that I grabbed hold of. And I think set me up so that when my husband got sick, we always say that my daughter saved my husband's life because of our journey with her, that I look back now and each onset has taught me a lot about speaking up on behalf of my family and asking questions and inviting people in. I think that for our little Peanut, her story began when she was 1. She was diagnosed with some brain damage. She had some motor skill delay and some developmental delay. And we kind of thought that was the big mountain in her life. We were doing speech and occupational and physical therapy. And then when she was 3, her ultra rare disease diagnosis came in. And I couldn't wrap my brain around, oh my goodness, this child has already been through so much. And at the time, it was the drug that was FDA approved was only 3 years old. It was the most expensive drug in the world. I had to sign a document in the hospital that said if our insurance didn't cover the cost of the drug, that they would only, as a hospital, be able to afford to give it to her for maybe 2 years tops. And there was a lot of fear and pressure about the unknown and what happens if we can't afford this drug, and what happens if she never rebounds. When there's one treatment, there's a lot of pressure. And I think that, I say that my journey started to shift the more I learned about her disease and rare disease, the more gratitude kind of took over. You learn 5% of all rare diseases have a treatment. Boy, aren't I lucky to be an ultra rare disease with an effective treatment. And thankfully, our insurance did cover the costs of the drug. But I never dreamed that there would be other charities and people who care about the ultra rare of the ultra rare, and people who have come alongside of us. And I think there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors, and I have invited all of our Elisa's caregivers and James caregivers in, and we have benefited from that. So I think, I definitely never thought that ultra rare disease would be a part of our story. But again, I feel like the rare disease, the caregivers, the special needs, those are our people. I found my tribe, and they're the overcomers. They're the ones who, against all odds, are working and coming against things that seem insurmountable, yet making progress. And I've learned a lot about not judging the future based on the present, because I was wrong a lot about what I projected for my child. And things are rapidly changing. And it is a balance of living of having wisdom and discernment about what's going on, and then not living in fear, and the balance of that. And I'm doing my best to take it day by day.
Can you talk about the difference of caring for your child versus caring for your husband as well?
Oh, yes. I think my daughter's onset was my biggest heartbreak, because, when she was 3, it's just hard to watch anyone you love suffer. And then watching, your child who had no understanding of really what's going on. That was terrifying. And then you add, I think, her little special needs issues, the fact that she has speech issues, communication issues, put the weight of my job of paying attention to the details, what's going on, paying attention to her, and advocating for her. Like, when they were, as everybody knows, you get no sleep in a hospital. And there were times when I had to say, listen, I know her vitals are important. Is there any way we can time these with her medicine so that she's not waking up every 2 hours? She needs sleep, and things like that, because I knew my daughter well, but she didn't have the ability to kind of communicate. So it was a lot harder for me. And honestly, I think it took me a lot longer to come out of my sadness about the perpetual state of of this disease. That as of now, she's on a medicine for a long time, it was biweekly for the rest of her life. And we used to have to go down to the infusion clinic at our Vanderbilt Children's Hospital. And it felt like such a sad place to be around all of these children getting these infusions. But then again, again, my perspective shifted, because you meet other mothers, you meet other people who have worse stories, you meet other families. And a nurse once told me, listen, this is not where children come to die. This is where children are in the fight of their life and win. And I remember that shifted something inside of me of like, I've got to get in the fight. I've got to move past this and look around. I'm not the only one smelling like smoke, so to speak. And so I think caring for her was the biggest adjustment and felt so important. When my husband got sick, I felt like I was a little more familiar with the path. And I was a little bit more like, okay, I called my daughter's nephrologist and said, hey, can you call James's hematologist? And they were able to coordinate and go, hey, run this test. It'll be positive. Run this test. It will be negative. My husband was able to walk into the ER and hand them his genetic mutation and say, you need to do a CBC, check my blood for schistocytes, check my creatinine, my BUN. These are all kidney function numbers. And hand them a diagnosis, which, for a long time, that was a hard thing with our disease, was getting diagnosed. And he was able to get on the same life-changing, life-saving medicine within 24 hours. And it was easier with him because I knew things would get worse before they would get better. I had the lay of the land. And James, as my partner, as my husband, has no problem communicating. And so, I definitely had to do a different, I think I advocated in a different way. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I think I did a lot more behind the scenes than with Elise. I was front and center at this doctor's rounds early in the morning. I was up at 5 a.m. wanting to know what her blood results were. And with James, he kind of led that charge, so to speak. Like, I was there asking questions, but he didn't need me to be there talking to the nurses every 5 seconds.
Got it. Now, how about during COVID? How has that impacted how your family has had to navigate the healthcare system?
Yeah. Complicated, as everyone can attest, because we still have doctor's visits, we still have follow-ups, we still have things. And so I think we have had to really be strategic about what's important, what's not during this time. I think we've had to be very communicative with our family and friends about our extra caution. Thankfully, the people that know us and know our story don't take that personal. They understand the importance of of why we're being guarded and careful. And if you even think you even have a cold, please don't drop off meals. If you even think that your throat or even a tiny bit, thank you so much for the flowers. But we kind of just had to be very vocal about what our family's boundaries are. But at the same time, like I said, not live in fear, because we have had to go down to the hospital. We've had to go pick up prescriptions. There's no way to be completely quarantined. And, naturally, you're scared about all of the risks everywhere. But we've stayed connected with our AHUS medical community, who have been great about briefing us about where, Elise and James's particular mutation. There are kind of various risks with different mutations within our disease community, and an understanding like, hey, our medicine that we're on doesn't necessarily make us any more likely to get it. Our versus like something like bacterial meningitis.
Right.
The drug that we're on makes us like 2,000% more likely to get it if we were ever around that. So we're constantly staying updated of going, hey, even though you're on an immunosuppressant drug, because of its shutting down a part of the immune system, it doesn't shut down the whole thing. Here's your degree of risk. And so that has helped us educate, where should we cut back, and where is it safe to kind of progress to, like, doctor's visits and things like that. So staying updated and not being afraid to have boundaries.
Oh, well said. So what advice would you like to give other families as they navigate during these unprecedented times and care for loved ones?
Oh, I think for me, a big part of my personal story is having one foot in the world of reality. I hear what you're telling me. I see the medical report. I see the data. And then also having one foot in faith that there is only so much I can control and I can do everything right. And yet still, there we all know that there's a fluke chance that some things can go wrong. I mean, clearly, for every million, there are two. The even odds, even though my husband and daughter's disease is genetic, and we all did genetic testing and knew that my husband was the carrier, knew that there was a possibility he could manifest. But as we learned in the world of genetics, just because you have a mutation doesn't mean anything will. So living in that day-to-day balance of, gosh, he has this, could he not? And then when he did, the unthinkable did happen, kind of had to pivot, make the adjustments. And I kind of feel like that's the paradigm a little bit of trying to navigate the reality that there is risk and to be cautious and use wisdom, but then having a little bit of surrendered faith that, again, things are out of my control, and because of my faith, I believe that God is in control, and I am comforted that I can only do so much, and then I can rest that this is where I can hand things over. And so I think the mothers who are terrified, and the wives, and all the caregivers, or the husbands, and all the different caregiver scenarios, the best friends, the grandparents, that to try and focus on the positive as much as you can and be thankful for every minute, every day, not live in fear, and do the best that you can and fight for your peace, fight for your peace that things will be okay.
Well, speaking of fighting for your peace, Grace alluded to this early on, that you come into Washington, D.C., and you've lobbied on behalf of other families, right?
Right.
What do you think that policymakers in particular and other allies in this fight need to know for caregivers specifically?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that puts families, patients and caregivers in jeopardy is holding on to our medical benefits. That, it's not a patient's fault, the cost of their care. And especially when you think about, patients who have private health care, and then because of these, rare diseases or chronic conditions or whatever the reason for their need for caregiving, that then they lose their benefits. And then, of course, the transition to government funded benefits and some of the pitfalls of that, because we all know it's not a perfect system. And that is kind of what I feel like, the legislation that I was lobbying on behalf, as Grace mentioned, protects a family's right to receive charitable assistance, whether that's through a charity or a nonprofit, whomever wants to come alongside and go, I'll cover the cost of this medical premium or this co-insurance payment or this copay. There shouldn't be any kind of blockade against that, because I believe that patients and caregivers need all the assistance that they can get. Again, it's not the cost of their care. So I think protecting a patient's and the caregiver's right to receive their medicine, receive their benefits, that is what feels like, that's the difference of life and death, especially in families like ours. And I think the average person sometimes doesn't understand that those who have the rare diseases, I know our cost of care can be quite exorbitant, but these private insurances have risk pools. They factor in us. And so I think there's a lot of misinformation about that. And so I would say protecting the patient's medical benefits so that they can continue to receive their care, so they can get better.
I'm so glad you make time to come into DC, because I bet you're a very powerful advocate. So before we switch into the Q&A, one last question from my vantage point. You've had some amazing, wonderful success, right, in songwriting. And we're excited that you're going to sing for us in just a bit. But can you tell us how being a caregiver, for your husband and your daughter has informed or influenced your songwriting?
Oh man, I mean, the best songs I've ever written have been because of them. I mean, it's very clear. I feel like pre Elise and James, post Elise and James. I mean, the weight of what I sing. I feel like, whatever you go through gives you more authority. I think people are looking for realness, and people connect to pain. People connect to the reality of being afraid, and people respond to being comforted. And I think I wrote songs my daughter needed to hear. I think I wrote songs I needed to hear. I think it was an outlet for me to write about everything that was going on, because so many times I was again overwhelmed and couldn't see how things could ever be okay again. And man, have I loved being humbled and been proven wrong. That, my daughter, who once was down to 15% kidney function, comes back to 100% kidney function. Same thing with my husband. He arrived at the ER at 15% kidney function. He was crashing so fast. And same thing, rebounds to 100% kidney function. I had to go down to, I told you, the infusion clinic for a year and a half, every 2 weeks. Who knew that all of a sudden home infusions would one day be cheaper for our family, and my little peanut can watch a movie? And so naturally, as hope started coming back into my little universe, you'll see that in my songwriting, that hope started to be infused into the messages in my song. I write a lot about the struggle, about overcoming, but then there is a little bit of an undercurrent of hope in there. And man, as a songwriter, as a musician, as anybody who's in the music industry knows, man, any bit of success is a blessing to be able to work in this industry. And I am touched that the songs that have had the most success have been the ones that have been written about my family. People have responded to those mission statements. And so I'm honored. And who would have known that TV shows and commercials would have become such a unique outlet? It's really only the past 10 years. Grey's Anatomy was like the first show that really opened that up for us songwriters, where we started pairing music and TV shows. And that ended up being a very viable outlet for me, which I'm grateful, because it's allowed me to, even though I'm home with my family and can't tour in the same way that other artists can, it's allowed my music to reach millions of people. And God had a little path for me that was very unique, but I love it. It's worked, and I love connecting with people who hear the songs through again, internationally, or through a commercial or something. So I feel so blessed. And again, without a question, my music is 100% better because of the storms and the rainbows that have come from what we've been through.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. We can't wait to hear more of that. So Grace, let's turn it over to you to pull in some questions from the audience.
Yeah, so I would just encourage everyone to feel free to leave a comment on the Facebook page, or into the Q&A function if you're following us on Zoom. And while folks are doing that, I just had a couple of questions. One thing that strikes me, Cameron, particularly living in Washington and even reading the local news, is how divided we are right now as a nation. And even around Thanksgiving, beyond just the public health issues, people saying, I'm upset about the election, or I'm upset about the way people reacted to the election, and I don't want to get together. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that a little bit, because we do have such a diverse nation, people, different religious backgrounds, different racial, ethnic backgrounds, different sexual orientations, and it can be hard sometimes to find that common ground.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And I think that, our humanness should be the thing that we're all connected to. We all have mountains and valleys. We all have areas of disappointment and pain. And we all have something that we can give we all have the ability to affect each other. We all have the ability to give love. And I think that, yes, we all might have different opinions on what will solve our problems, but that's to me like the far sided perspective, like the closer nearsighted perspective. I think I may have just flip-flopped those. It's that, again, we life is better with a buddy, and kindness heals a lot. And yes, I am, it is a stressful time with the pandemic and all of these different opinions, and I'm trying really hard on my social media to make an effort to bring like things that are life-giving and heartwarming, and and find ways to look people in the eye and be extra kind, especially when we're wearing masks. I mean, it feels like we're all set up to look as angry and fearful as we can, and I try as much as I can to smile with my mask on, when if I'm in the hospital, or if I'm getting gas or something that I have to do, and just remember that, man, pain and fear, and the unknown is a common, everyone's dealing with that. And in the same way that, man, kindness and going the extra way to look people in the eye and be sensitive. I think if we can be sensitive to each other's pain, then our disagreements are more palpable. You know what I mean? It's not as, if we're not yelling at each other, then there's going to be less reason to be offended. So I'm trying my best to teach my children and to go out into this world right now in a state of kindness, and not worry as much about what we don't agree on, and more that we all are in agreement, that we all just want everything to get back to normal and people to be healthy, and we all care about each other. Really, I believe at our core, humans do want the best for one another, and that's what matters, even if we disagree on how to get there.
Absolutely. And Jasmine, I would have a similar question for you, because you've worked in government affairs for a long time. So you've seen, I'm sure, a lot of tension, and from the work that you do, both with healthy women, healthy economies, and also embracing carers, it would be great to know what are some of the common themes you see kind of across nation, across different political parties.
Oh, what a heavy question, but an important question, right, Grace? And I expect nothing less from you in asking these questions. But I would say health is often a unifier, right? Everyone understands that it's not just an individual issue, but a family issue, a community issue, and that we want each other to be well in some regard. So I often see, at the Congress level, that people will coalesce. I saw it previously in cancer. People want to fund more research for cancer research. But I would also often say an interesting issue that's been a unifier is the economy, that people want people to have jobs to be able to provide for their families. So you see part of my work is combining the intersection of health and economic participation. So I look at caregiving as an issue that, this is a bit of a public health crisis that's now worldwide. And we want to provide funding for people that have to sometimes step out from their jobs to be able to care for loved ones. So you'll see that go across party lines. And that's actually been affirming, to Cameron's point, to see just that bit of kindness come in at a micro and a macro level. But
Absolutely.
What about you? How have you seen that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think health is something that that does tie us together, because I think we, Cameron, as you were describing with your family, I think we don't want other people in our lives to be in pain or to be facing something that they can't control. And sometimes I think it's easier for us to take on that pain, or to say, I could handle that if I was in their shoes. And I think many families right now with COVID are dealing with that as well, that they're saying, it'd be okay if I got sick, but I don't want the people that I love to get sick. So, well, I will just say just looking over the chat box and the questions we have on Facebook, Cameron, there's no shortage of love for all the wonderful work you do. And I'm wondering if you could just remind people what your website is, if they wanted to get in contact with you and learn more about what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much, Grace. And I just want to tell you again that it was an honor to come alongside people like you and Jasmine, who have this mission to encourage and come alongside people. And I thank you so much for this awesome opportunity to get to come and be a part of this. If you want to follow along, my website is CameronJamesMusicOfficial.com. I'm on Instagram, Cameron James Music Official, and Facebook, and I have music under Cameron James on Spotify and Apple, and pretty much anywhere you can stream or download music.
That's wonderful. Well, Jasmine, any final words before we move into the musical part?
Oh my goodness, I don't want to get in the way of this. I think the best part is about to come. So let's turn it over.
Awesome.
Well, without further ado, let me introduce you my rare rock star husband. James is going to actually accompany me, and maybe I might have a couple of my cute littles come down and sing you "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" at the end. This is my husband, James.
Hi.
So I love getting to do events like this where I get to talk about why I wrote a song. And the first song I thought I would sing is called "You Can Do Anything," because I wrote this, with my daughter in mind, that sometimes when life gives you limitations, whether that's a caregiver or a patient, you start to feel like, man, how can I ever reach this goal? Or how can I ever accomplish this dream? Because we kind of look in these finite boxes of like, if it hasn't happened by this time, or if I don't have this, set of connections or assets, and it won't happen. And nope, I'm telling you, I'm living proof that things can happen in an odd timeline. Things can happen at the least, when you least expect it. And I wanted my little girl to sing this over herself, that she can do anything. I don't care about her limitations. She's magic. All right, so this song is called "You Can Do Anything." Told you you can't? Who said that you're not good enough? The dreams in your hands are meant to touch the sky. You don't have to hide. Don't let the darkness blind you. The fire in your eyes illuminates the night. It's a gold horizon. Spread your wings, you'll fly, and ooh, you can do anything. It's an open heaven everywhere you're standing. Ooh, you can do anything. Ooh, anything. Don't be so surprised when mountains start to crumble. You won't have to fight. Just let the pieces fall. No limit, no lines. This world cannot confine you so easy this time. You'll rise above it all. It's a gold horizon. Spread your wings, you're flying. Ooh, you can do anything. It's an open heaven everywhere you're standing. Ooh, you can do anything. Ooh, anything. Don't you know, oh, you can do anything, oh, don't you know, oh, you can do anything, oh. It's a gold horizon, spread your wings, you're flying, ooh, you can do anything. It's an open heaven everywhere you're standing. Ooh, you can do anything. Ooh, anything. Ooh, oh, anything. Ooh, anything. Ooh, oh, anything. Yay, good job, husband. I'm gonna drink some water. This is real life. I love that it was coffee time. So I have my Christmas coffee cup. If you couldn't tell, we are decorated. I have the fire going, trying to create a little cozy Christmas vibe. Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, everybody. I hope that wherever you are, that you are finding things to be thankful for. We're at the end of a long year, and it's only gonna get better. All right, this song is called "The Bridge." And I wrote this song thinking, this was at the beginning of the pandemic, and this was when toilet paper was getting scarce and ground meat was hard to find in the store. and I had gone to our Publix, and I actually had bought some meat, and there was a woman who'd come up next to me, and she said, you know, do you have any more meat in the back? And the guy was like, no, but you know, you come tomorrow. And you could tell she was just stressed, you know, and I can totally relate. And I looked over at her and I said, you can have this, because there's, you know, like fresh shrimp. I can make shrimp scampi. I can do that. And I have some other things in the freezer. You can have mine. And you would have thought that I had given her $1 million. And it was so easy. It was such a small thing. I'm gonna cry. I just delivered birth, so hormones are very real. It was such a tiny thing to give her, but she was so thankful and came home and made our shrimp scampi, and just had this thought like, God, we all have something we can give. We can be a bridge. That is the difference sometimes between someone just falling apart and someone holding together. So this song, I'm gonna take another sip of water, it's called The Bridge. When it feels like there are nights to climb or tunnel your way through, you cannot see your steps from all the ash that's left, I will find a way to you. I can be a bridge, I want you crossing over. An echo that will live, I have so much I can give. I can be a bridge. When you're watching all the walls fall down, chaos breaking through, can't find a place that's safe, afraid the line will break, I will not let go of you. I can be a bridge, I want you crossing over. An echo that will live, I've so much I can give. I can be a bridge. You are not alone. Together we can make it. Take my hand, I'll hold on tight. I'll lead you through the night. I can be a bridge. You can be a bridge. You can be a bridge. A lifeline to each other. We're never going under. We can be a bridge. We can be a bridge. We can be a bridge. A lifeline to each other. We're never going under. We can be a bridge. I can be a bridge. I want you crossing over. An echo that will live. I've so much I can give. I can be a bridge. You are not alone. Together we can make it. Take my hand, I'll hold on tight. I'll lead you through the night. I can be a bridge. All the caregivers out there, bridges. All right, this next song is a special one. This is a song called All Is Not Lost that I sang at the Global Genes concert. And normally when I perform, I love to show some pictures and video of my family behind you, because again, they're the best part of me. They're the best part. They are the story. I just get the honor of writing about them. And I'm gonna cry again. You know, it was around this time when Elise got sick. We spent Thanksgiving in the hospital. And I remember, man, like being so thankful that there were people who brought, you know, food to the hospital for people like us, and all of the caregivers and medical providers who were there working on Thanksgiving so that my daughter, you know, could live. And we ate our Thanksgiving on paper plates and just counted our blessings that, man, for every second, no one's promised tomorrow. It's not if the rains come, it's when the rains come. Suffering is definitely the great equalizer. There's not anybody, no matter what background you come from, no matter how much money you have, suffering again is the great equalizer. We all have storms, and the beauty is that I have learned through some of the storms that I did not want, that it won't storm forever, that people will come and sit with you, that there is always a hand to hold, there's always a reason to have hope, there's always someone to reach out to, because I believe that hope finds you if you call out for it. And wow, this song is called All Is Not Lost. And I think this is a song I definitely wrote to myself as a reminder to hold on when it felt like, you know, things would not ever be okay. I need to probably stop talking or I'm not gonna be able to sing. Isn't my husband handsome, guys? Look at how healthy and strong he is. I'm grateful for him. Okay, here we go. It's a long road to a hard line in a strange place at the wrong time. It's a heartache, it's on the lost ground. It's over, but just for now, all is not lost. All is not lost. Light in the dark, all is not lost. Like a sailor needs an anchor, needs a shallow place to land. I need something to hold on to believe in, to steady my hand. All is not lost. All is not lost. A light in the dark. All is not lost. Ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. I'm a soldier in a cold winter. I'm a wanderer far from my home. Oh, my brother, I am weary, and I'm sinking like a stone. All is not lost. All is not lost. A light in the dark. All is not lost. All is not lost. All is not lost. A light in the dark. All is not lost. All is not lost. All is not lost. So that was the first song I wrote after Elise got out of the hospital. And that's part of my Believe record that's on Spotify and Amazon and Apple. Well, just cake bowl. All right, last song. So this, I'm ending on a high note, on a good note. This is called I'm Feeling Good. This is on, I released a new record a couple months ago called Game Changer. And there's a lot of fight and grit in that record. There's a lot of get up, fight, come back. You know, I love that the song that I won the BMI award was called The Comeback, because that whole song was written about my family's comeback. James had been released from the hospital when that song was climbing the charts on the radio. And I felt a lot of providence in that timing. Sometimes you got to just call things that are not as though they are, or sing things as, you know, as not as though they are. But this song is called I'm Feeling Good. And you can hear this song. And also You Can Do Anything, the first song that I sang, are also part of my Game Changer record, which is again out on Spotify, Apple, all places where digital music So this song is called I'm Feeling Good. It's about when the clouds part and you've had all of this time where you have felt terrible, and then, man, you have a good day and it feels like there's a new horizon, a new possibility. So this is a happy song, and I will end with this, and then maybe we'll bring my kiddos to come sing a cute little Christmas song. But it's been an honor to be here. And I, again, thank you for having me. And for all of those who don't feel good right now and are hanging on by a thread, I hope this song gets in your spirit and helps you to have hope that you will feel better one day again. So here comes I'm Feeling Good. Sunny vibes, golden everywhere I step. The buzz is live, bringing out my very best. Turn your hair for sure, I'm wanting everyone to know. Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm feeling good, not slowing down. I'm only moving forward, starting now. I'm flying up, I'm going higher. From everywhere you look, my future's fire. Oh, I'm feeling good. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm feeling good. Ooh, 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 ooh. Open my eyes, rainbow coming into view. Colors collide, gray is turning into blue. Everywhere I go, I'm wanting everyone to know I'm feeling good, not slowing down. I'm only moving forward, starting now. I'm flying up, I'm going higher. From anywhere you look, my future's fire. Oh, I'm feeling good. Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm feeling good. Ooh, 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 ooh. From 1 to 10 now, I'm gonna live loud. Future's fire rising high, I'm gonna stand out. From 1 to 10 now, I'm gonna live loud. Future's fire rising high, I'm gonna stand out. Ooh, 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 ooh. I'm feeling good, not slowing down. I'm only moving forward, starting now. I'm flying up, I'm going higher. From anywhere you look, my future's fine, my future's fine. I'm feeling good, ooh, 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 ooh. I'm feeling good, ooh, 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 ooh. I'm feeling good, ooh, 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 ooh. I'm feeling good, ooh, ooh, ooh. I'm feeling good. Yay! All right, let's come get my cute little kids who will make your day. And we're going to sing you a cute little song and text the babysitter who's upstairs. All right, my husband's going to go get them. But thank you, everybody, for listening.
Cameron, let me just say, we've been clapping and dancing here at the Whiting household. So it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. And I think that moment where people feel lost or hopeless, to know that they're not alone is just so important. It's just so important.
Thank you. It's definitely, I appreciate that. It's hard sometimes to do a concert in your house to a video screen, but I appreciate it. You guys are with me in spirit. Here comes my son.
Oh, wonderful.
This is my son,
I
Cade.
want to say
Can
hi.
you say hi?
Me.
Hi. And then I have my daughter, Elise, and she's the one that's coming.
Hi.
And then we have a newborn named Laris. Cade, what do you think of your new sister?
She is so cute. I love her.
That's wonderful.
And Miss Jasmine. Can you see Jasmine?
Yep.
Hi.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hey. Happy holidays to everyone.
Happy
And
holidays.
I'm gonna see if I'm gonna bring my husband along too, who's my crew. Yeah. So this is Jeff. He's been helping me with lighting and everything.
All right, Jeff. Way to go for being the crew. Hey, come here. Can you sit down so I can have Elise come? Elise, come say hi
And I'll just say we've got a lot of comments here on Facebook and things. All right. Hi.
Can you say hi?
Hi, sweetie.
Can you say hi? Say hi. Do you love to
Now
sing
you can see
music?
3 of us.
Yep, now I can see 3. And I think little Laris is asleep, so that's okay. But do you want to
I'm
sing?
1,000 pounds.
She's not 1,000 pounds, she's little. But you ready to sing We Wish You Merry Christmas?
Yes.
Okay, are you ready? Are you ready? I love it. I want to hear you sing loud. You're my favorite. Ready?
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas.
We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your king. Good tidings of Christmas and a Happy New Year. Can you say Happy Holidays? Happy Holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Wow. Thank you so much. And
Beautiful.
Cameron, as always, just wonderful to have you spend this time with us this afternoon and to share your family and your music and to kick us off for a beautiful week. We are going to be sharing this video with our attendees and on our Facebook page, and we encourage others to share and help spread a message of hope during this difficult time for so many families. Jasmine, I'm looking at you and wondering if you have any final thoughts you want to leave with us as we move into this week of discussions.
No, I just want to say this issue is personal for so many of us, but as we know, the world is so interdependent, and we just look forward to ending this year on a conversation of looking back, but also looking forward. So thank you to everyone, what you are already doing to support this in your community, in your homes. And thank you again, Grace, for you and your team for hosting this.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all. Be safe. Take care. And help us to make the world a more caring place. Bye-bye.